Okay. Let's see how long it takes.
Okay, let me.
Okay, we are live.
Yay!
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. We have the Jodie Slaughter on my channel here today. But before we get into talking about all her amazing books, which you should have read, because I don't know why we're sleeping on her, I will let my other two co-hosts introduce themselves, and then we'll get started.
Wait, I'm Tiffany. I go by Neverland Pictures on Instagram, and that's just where I gush about books all night and push the platform because I really shouldn't be rambling that much in my story. Thank you. That's it.
I'm Jacqueline. I am primarily very often on Instagram. I need to post more on YouTube, but I'm on the same page. So find me. I've been talking recently a lot about Stern Brunch Daddy. So if you have any questions about that particular archetype, I've been doing some really important scientific research here.
You and Andy J. Christopher.
I mean, like, it was...
Absolutely, yes.
Oh, okay. Are you drinking?
Okay.
Sorry, let me not interrupt. I know. I
So yes, my sister and I are partial to gin and tonics, but I like to add fruity things. So mine has lots of strawberries in it.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. You should let us know. I would have got something.
Now
I feel unprepared.
Wait, Jodie, wait. What are you pulling out?
This is about to be so wild. I'm not drinking it right now because that would be over the limit. But it is on brand that I have moonshine.
Oh my God, like, I love it.
My cousin made this moonshine.
That's fantastic.
Okay, that makes so much sense because can we talk about White Whiskey Bargain?
Yes.
I felt like messaging Jodie. I was like, you watch Moonshiners, don't you? I caught it immediately.
I get it honest, which is a country thing we say. So actually, I don't really watch Moonshiners. I did watch some when I was writing the book as like a learning thing. But actually what sort of got the ball rolling for this in my head was going to Harlan, Kentucky. And so this story started out as something else years ago. And ultimately turned into like Hannah and Javier. But yeah, one of my parents spent a long time in Harlan, Kentucky. That was always a story I was interested in telling. I was interested in talking about like the fact that like the Appalachian region is one that like the country forgets about, period. But when you add Black and brown people, like, you know, that's just kind of a complete non-conversation. And I wanted to tell a story that was like fun and sexy and interesting and something that people aren't into. And also trying to figure out a way to like make a modern marriage of convenience trope work.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about the research because I was like, you don't get a lot of POC rep in the Appalachia, okay, and let alone like research is so limited too. Even if you wanted to do research, I was like, she must have talked with someone. Yeah. Okay,
I did. So as I pointed out, there's some moonshine making stuff in the family. It's not like this. It's more and also like it's more like in his kitchen type thing. So obviously the operation is a lot different from. Also, I'm not part of. No one in my family is part of like a large empire. I'll say that. But in terms of like literally people of color in Appalachian, Kentucky, and like Harlan County area specifically, which is what I focused on because it was what I was. I had the most knowledge on sort of organically. And then I was, of course, like you said, research can be quite limited. But I did read like some parsing my way through academic studies and stuff, which is like very difficult. I'm not an academic. But it was worth it. Looking up like statistics, figuring out like when certain people like Latinos started migrating to Appalachian, Kentucky, and why, when African Americans started to do that as well, like all kinds of stuff like that. So, and then I talked to my mom a lot because she knows Harlan, Kentucky. That's how I got things like, this is kind of a spoiler to like, that's how I got things like the hair salon, like where there's not a black hair salon in Harlan. So you would go to like a hairdresser, but it would just be, in somebody's kitchen, in somebody's basement type thing. So
kitchen. I was like, you got that. You got the pozole for Javier. Because Javier was just sexy to me.
I love him.
And like his conditions for marriage, I was like, all of this just boils down to like, I'm gonna treat you right, and I hope that you do the same.
That was exactly it. That was one of the first. That negotiation scene was one of the first.
The tension there, like in a negotiation scene, I love it.
I love when people talk about that scene specifically because and that they get exactly what I was trying to convey, like the tension, the push and pull, also like the fact that like these are two people they're negotiating in a lot of ways for themselves rather than like her father is negotiating with his father type thing. So I'm glad that like people really like that because I was like, it was one of my favorite things to write for sure.
It was hot, and him being
the steam in this book. I was not ready. That was the last one I read, and I was like, ooh.
Can we talk about how you do dirty talk really well? That's across the board and all.
Yes.
You do that. And like, as someone who likes it in my books and outside of my books, I was thoroughly enjoying that.
That's exactly it. Like, as someone who likes it in my books and outside of my books as well, I think that's why I do it pretty well. I think that's sort of a running theme in all my work is that dirty talking is like, it's so, I don't know. I think it's just really interesting. I think it's an interesting way to explore like consent, in a way that's like sort of very practical to me, very realistic to like, how some people might like engage in, their fun times.
Right.
So yeah. And also I like a lot of heat.
Yeah, it was heat, and I'm glad that Javier wasn't intimidated by the dildo. He was okay that it was there.
Yeah.
We see a lot of that, and we also see like a lot of like, I like how she was like, it was, I can squirt. You may not be able to do this. But he was okay with it. It wasn't like a big,
Yeah. Well, because that's like, I think that's so much the reality. First of all, I want people to know, especially like cishet men, to know that like sex toys are not your competition. They are your friend.
Totally.
Any of your partners. So there's that. And I wanted to portray that because they are. And then, but also I think that is the reality. I think there are like things that you can do for yourself that are not so easy for other people to do. And I was like, I want that to, she's like, and also it was sort of a thing of her being like, trust me, I know what I'm doing. I know my way around this shit. Hannah Hawkins is not a shy woman, not in any avenue of her life. So yeah.
Woo. I love that comment about like ongoing and active consent.
Yeah.
And it made me think of Tamia, who's Shays and Pages on Instagram and Twitter, had a comment in a review today that was like, closed mouths do not get head. And I'm like, yes. Communication is key.
I like that.
I know. That's amazing.
That's perfect. That's actually perfect.
That's a really good way to put it.
She needs to trademark that because that's A+.
Oh my.
I also like that he had been married before.
Yeah.
So that scene where he goes to the grocery store, and it's almost like, I'm like, dude, we all need these moments to just be reminded. Like, okay, I've done this before. Like, let me go back and communicate, advocate, and like not do the same thing over again. I love that.
Yeah. First of all, thank you. That scene was also, that was a lot of things. I'm not into evil exes, especially when they're women. I was not into like villainizing Javier, because I mean it was him. Like he he fucked up, like, you know, and it obviously was like, you know, they were too young and like whatever, but he was not a good partner. And it wasn't, I think it was important for him to like, for me to have him vocalizing his feelings and to say like, you hurt me. This is what I need from you. And I thought, I don't know that that's not that people aren't doing it. Like, I think there are so many people in romance who are writing versions of like men who are like displaying really like beautiful versions of being in a relationship and being like trying to be a healthier person in general and also in a relationship. And I wanted to have my take on it, and I wanted him to be like, ma'am, if I'm gonna like be a good partner, be a good husband, I need to tell you how I feel, and I need to tell you when you're not. What, like when you're fucking up a little bit, and also, you know, acknowledge when he's doing it too, because he knows he has a history of that.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, just like it was sort of like a fantasy of like how you wish you could talk to your partner always, and how your partner or partners could talk to you always, which is, I guess, a lot of what romance is, I think. Trying to like visualize what could happen if you were better at communicating, and if other people were better at communicating with you too. Maybe just for me, I don't know.
I don't think it's just you.
It's not just a sex fantasy. It's like, what if I was like a good, well-rounded person? What if I was a little closer to being done than I am right now?
Oh, wow. But I think this is a good time to switch over to, I think, the book all of us really love.
The first book of yours I read.
Oh.
I was like, Katie Roberts, like talked about this book. I was like, you got the queen of like really out there smut. Like Katie Roberts writes anything. Like she just writes what she wants to write, and then she's like, I want monster smut. And then she's
writing a monster book right now. It's like monsters, and there's an auction of some kind.
Her menages are crazy.
That's
like her vampire one. I was like, this is like 4 or 5 people at once.
Chef's kiss. Tasha L. Harrison said something on a live with Katrina Jackson once, where I think she said that Katie Roberts had told her that I'm paraphrasing, but the phrase like dessert books were used. Yes. And I found that where it was essentially Katie was like, I'm going to write what I want, what makes me happy. It's my dessert. It's my like the for lack of a better term. Yes. The like weird, you know, for lack of a better term, like things that are out there and like and I thought that was like really, really incredible. And I was like, that's exactly what she's doing, and she does it phenomenally.
She does.
Yeah, she does. She does.
If you could do a dessert project, what would you serve for dessert?
Vampires. Okay, here it is.
Oh yes.
So I'm 26. I'm an OG Twihard.
Yes.
I want like also I was like 13, and so I was just like on the cusp of like right after is when I started reading like smutty fan fiction, right? So what I sort of wanted, what I wanted to sort of pluck from Stephanie Meyer's lore in certain ways and like her thing and like turn it into something that looked more like me and felt more like me. That's what I want to do. And I know, and also this is like, I know this is like another like controversial yet brave thing. I do have I don't write them a lot. I don't know that I've ever really written one, if we're going to talk about all things burn, like damsel in distressy in a way, but upending it in a way.
Yeah.
I think I did that in some ways with all things burn, or I was trying to in some ways. But I don't know. I wanted to write like I don't want to say a Black Bella Swan, but someone who was like a Black girl, but like woman, but very fully realized, smutty, vampire-y, just yeah, that. So we're hoping one day, and I'm hoping that even if no one wants to like buy it, I'm going to write it.
You should do it because you were with that Walking Dead fanfic.
Wait, what? Wait, do you?
I did my research. I did my research. She did fanfic, so you can
really.
Wow.
Oh, for years. Well, yeah. So, like I said, I mean, I was like 12-ish when I started writing fan fiction. And then I would do it on and off in certain fandoms, like, but my most recent like foray was the Walking Dead fan fiction. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's an interesting choice.
I'm into it.
Oh, it is.
I like it.
The chemistry between Rick and Michonne was too palpable to ignore. Denai Guerrero was too hot.
She's amazing.
Oh, she's amazing, yeah.
Her bone structure is like, it makes me sick, honestly.
I know. She's so gorgeous that like you need to sit down, like you get my head.
And the fact that like I feel like I knew she was beautiful, and then when she was in Black Panther and like had a buzz head, like I was like,
yeah, I'm gay.
The power this woman has is unparalleled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have to ask about how you came up with Cullum. Like as a hero.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
Oh, this is like revealing how my ideas come to me is so chaotic. Like, and when I say every idea I've ever had for something starts in one normally pretty tame place and then just spirals out of control. I watch a lot of TV. TV is like my favorite. So around the same time, I was watching the show Burn Notice.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, now this makes sense.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah, Fiona.
I haven't watched it.
Oh,
you have to.
It's about this like spy, and he gets a burn notice taken out of him, which is basically like a hit. And so it's kind of it's a procedural type. He's like figuring out how to who put the burn notice out on him while also kind of solving all these other little crimes in Miami. But he has this Irish kind of on again, off again girlfriend named Fiona, and she's just a fucking wild card.
Yeah.
Like truly so wild and like fantastic. And I was like, I love her, and the idea for him started building in my head. And then also, I was also around the same time doing my bi-yearly rewatch of my favorite show of all time, which is Spartacus, which is the Starz show. And there is I think there's a really great, also a trigger warning for like brief mentions of sexual assault. There is a female character who goes through a sexual assault, and post that there's a storyline of her and her love interest, and he is like training her. She wants to kill everyone who had a hand in this.
I love it so much.
Yeah, and so ultimately, like, her hero was like, because he's a gladiator, he's like helping. He and other people are helping train her to like become a very strong physical fighter, and then she ultimately does murder her, the most sort of responsible abuser, and so that was also in my head, something sort of similar to that, where sort of a woman who was like unsuspecting and like hurting and in pain, was able to get help, but also like sort of realized that what she wanted was to take matters into her own hands, and in a lot of ways a revenge story, because I love a good revenge story.
So good.
And then it just started building.
Yeah, that's like really interesting that you say that, because one of the things that I liked about this, okay, first, this is going to be a really random thought. I was going to think like the stalker dude. I was like, if this was another romance, like a super, super dark romance, I could see like I could see someone turning him into the hero. Yeah. I was like, what does this say about me? Like, do I read too much? I was like, this could be a whole thing. You and Katie Roberts could write it. Like,
I've read my fair share. I've read my fair share, and also like, if I really kind of wanted this to explore themes of like good versus bad. Someone who like thinks that they are irredeemable, who comes to realize that like that's not necessarily the truth, and someone who thinks that they're like sort of a paradigm of goodness, who realizes that is also not the truth, and that's like, well, not okay. Like, it's not okay that he's a hitman. Like, we all know that, but like, we suspend our disbelief and our morals for MCs who are hot and like, oh wow, like he has a code. Like, oh my god,
that's what I want to read.
Moral.
Yeah,
it's definitely like an interesting exploration of like, people would prefer to exist in like this is like a black or white, morally right or morally wrong, when like there's a lot of gray area.
Yeah. I think that's especially true when it comes to like justice. This is something I kind of tried to touch on a little in White Whiskey Bargain. Like, what is justice? I think justice means something different to everyone else.
Totally.
Who gets it? Who doesn't get it? Like, you know what I mean? And so I don't,
because it was like, for me, when All Things Burn, I'm like, is it justice that the system's failing her? I'm like, it just kind of highlighted, even though it's like, I love the gray area. I love an anti-hero, and I love just like subcultures and like the seedy underbelly, characters being featured. And in this one, it was really interesting because I was getting all of that, but that was also like heavy social commentary on the fact that the system does fail.
Yeah.
And it's like Callum comes in there. And can we just say the fact that he recognized the goddess that was before him when he first saw her, I was like, yes.
Yeah. I mean,
that gun raid scene. I'm just
I wanted nothing more than for Callum to just like be instantly ready to fall to his knees. I think that was a huge part of his save the cat moment, which is like, because I was, it's hard to like have one of those. Well, granted, not really. I think if you're a person who reads dark romance, you go into it with like, okay, there's supposed to be something about this person or people, whoever are like, very anti-hero-ish, that is gonna make me not like completely be disgusted by them. but I didn't want him to like save a little kid on the, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was like, but I was like, if I can like convincingly make people see that he has like a very pure, like, holy shit, I'm awed by this woman right off the bat. I think maybe that'll do it for him.
Yeah.
Something that I really liked about All Things Burn is like I like a lot of like the like what Tiffany was talking about, like the seedy kind of underbelly energy and like the like what feels kind of like either dark or taboo about like dark romance. But often like it can get tripped up on like issues of like major consent or like where there's like a huge power dynamic and where there's an imbalance. And I feel like this like hit such a sweet spot for me because I like you had all of those like really kind of like dark or like edgy elements in the story, but it also was like people who are like, I mean, there's a whole like his experiences as a hitman are going to be different, so there's like a disparateness there, but it's not as though like there's this wide gap between the two of them, and they both are like fully formed people, and I just was like,
oh, thank you for saying that. That makes me so happy. One, I think this has to do with a lot of, and I've had like a sort of a brief conversation with this on the podcast Shelf Love. I think a lot of that, that sort of like intense power imbalance tends to happen because it's normally the hero is like very wealthy. Yeah. And I am generally uninterested in wealth. Yeah. I don't tend to be like attracted to I don't know, I like a blue collar, like I just think that's what I'm interested in exploring. And I think no, of course, like just taking that portion away and also like just doesn't automatically make them on equal footing, but I do think having them, I don't know, I guess I wasn't necessarily interested in them being super imbalanced. I wanted most of the grittiness of the story to be less their relationship and more the situations that they have both found themselves in. And I wanted there to be a balance. I wanted you to be able to like read one chapter and be like, this is two people falling in love and it feels very gentle, and then read another chapter and someone's getting their throat slit. And I thought that would be kind of interesting. So yeah.
I liked that you put Devin in there because I don't know about anybody else, but I'm like, everybody, or I have that cousin. Like she goes to Devin, and I like just seeing that, like the difference within her family, you know, and like her being able to like go to Devin and like inquire this, and then also like advocate for her relationship when she finally does bring him home and be like, listen, Devin, don't
like,
tell me
this is gonna happen.
Yeah, this is happening.
I have that cousin. I am that cousin.
I've been that cousin.
Yeah. I mean, you know, to certain. But yeah, no, I thought that was like, it was important to me to like. I think there can be an issue in interracial romances, especially where you have this like, and other people have pointed this out before, like shout out to Katrina Jackson, where you have these Black characters who are like alone on this island as the only Black person, and they don't have any Black friends, and their Black family are not present. And of course, like, you know, I'm not saying there aren't Black people who do not exist, you know, this way, but I think it, to me, it would be distressing to live that way. And so it's always important to me to like have my Black characters, have any characters of color, like have family or friends who are like them. And I thought Devin was like sort of a perfect portrayal of like your dad's side of the family, you know?
Yeah.
Because I don't know why, but your daddy's side of the family is always like the best, but like I don't know. You know, I guess it's like because we're all living the trope of like bougie mom and like bad boy dad type.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you know what I mean, like I know, you know, so yeah, I wanted her to have like somebody and something, even if she couldn't go to them with every single thing. I didn't want her to be by herself, and I wanted her to have Devin, especially because her relationship was so contentious with her sister.
Yeah, it got real too. Like just that moment with her like friend, like what can I even disclose? I'm like, can she even disclose this relationship? Her friend that like, I love her when her friend's over and he comes over, like, girl, I know something's going on.
Right?
Yeah. You can't, like, how much do you say, you know?
You can't. I mean, you know, it's
like, say, I'm dating a hitman.
Right. Well, right. Especially, can you imagine if like you're like, okay, so I'm dating this white boy and like he just kills people, and your girl's just gonna be like, okay, girl. Like, no, you're getting like an intervention. Like that's right. Somebody's gonna knock you over the head, drag you to somebody's praying grandmother's house, and like that's just not gonna happen. So.
I love that. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, another thing I really loved about this book was the ending. I liked how it was like, it wasn't like your typical HEA. It was a little bit bittersweet because one of the things I was reading, I was like, there's no way they can get away with what they just did. And like, because I feel like it would just like it would make it just like a 4-star read, but I was like, I needed that like other shoe to drop for the characters.
Yeah.
And when the detective's like, yo, I saw everything. Like, you get out of the city right now. It's like, I like you. Cause it's like the book puts you like you do such a good job of like putting yourself in that gray area, which with some dark romances I love, but then I'm just like, I'm being pulled back into reality, and like I'm trying to reconcile the two. I'm like,
yeah,
you shouldn't like him. He kills people, but they're bad people. But does it still make like it's like it's like it just puts you through all these mental gymnastics, and I like how in the end she kind of has to pay for her actions a little bit by being kind of exiled from her home, her family, and her friends. And it's like a little bit bittersweet, which I was like, I really like that you went that direction instead of saying, we killed the crazy stalker. Everything's happy. Good. We're going right back to normal, because I feel like that would have been like, that's
you
too.
have to suspend your disbelief to a certain extent because he's a hitman, and like, and so I feel like the reason it hits so well is because like it has to have like a spark of reality for us to kind of buy in, and by like doing that, like that's what like Charles is saying, like it really makes us kind of believe that this could be real, and like, yeah, this is what happened.
Yeah.
And then you give us that moment, because like I'm a survivor. So when she walks in and says like, I want to do it myself, I was like, yes. You know, like yes. And I love how she has to kind of like cross through barriers of that. Like the woman that he's working with kind of looks her up and down, sees it in her eyes, lets her go in, and like she actually, like Joshua has to see that she's gonna do this. Like, I love that. Absolutely. So I'm like, because how many times have I like wanted to be able to do that, but I can't.
No, I think that's exactly it. It's like I truly, when I say I wanted revenge fantasy, like it's what I wanted. Like to me, for her, that is what justice was. Yeah. So, and that was the only way she was going to get it. It was the only way. He wasn't going to go away with threats, or like he needed to be gone. And for her to feel like she had her, you know, like she had gotten what she deserved, she needed to do it herself. As for the ending, I definitely wanted the detective to be that catalyst for like kind of wiping away that bit of relief they feel after it's done, because he's kind of someone who is also struggling with his own, like with the knowledge that like he you know became a cop thinking that what he was going to do was like do good, And that is not what he actually is able to do. And so he's still, at the end of the book, he's struggling with that. You can see with the way he doesn't arrest him. He doesn't arrest her when he realizes that she's killed, old dude, whether on accident or not, and they like burn the body and shit. But
Yes.
yeah, so that's definitely I definitely wanted him to be sort of a catalyst. I flirted with the idea of giving the detective his own book. I decided against it ultimately.
Okay,
well
Oh, dang it.
Listen, there's always
Jodie, now I'm angry. You just teased it and then you're like, sorry, you're never getting that book.
Yeah, capitalize on this whole Miss Scarlet and the Duke situation. Be like, what if we had one in the contemporary world?
So
I like that.
Finally, give us that death sex that everyone is waiting for.
Right?
Well, I actually wait. Do I? Well, I can't reveal that, but I'm never going to actually say I'm not going to do it, but I have to be very delicate if I'm going to write about a cop, because he is not going to stay a cop in whatever I write. And if I'm going to follow in the vein of All Things Burn, he's going to have to be at certain points sort of just as heinous and brutal as Callum is. But I can't, like, sort of in good conscience have someone doing that while also like walking through the halls as a police officer. Okay. It doesn't feel,
it doesn't feel right.
Yeah. So if I get to the point where where I feel like I have what it takes to like actually tell that story and maneuver that, then we have the setup. So,
yes.
Wow. So yeah, there will be more, and in it there will be more killing. And
can I ask about? I know that like we're talking about one other book, but can I ask about the setup in Either Way Up? This sex bingo.
You can.
Sex bingo.
That's your next release.
Yeah.
It isn't. Well, so I have a book coming out March 8th. It's a novella. That's a quarantine. That's called To Be Alone With You.
The cover.
Oh yeah, isn't it beautiful? It's so beautiful. That's March 8th.
Okay.
Either Way Up is not until spring summer 2022. That'll be my first like traditionally published release with St. Martin's Press. Thank you so much.
So excited.
We're so excited for you.
Thank you. Y'all are so sweet.
Like, I read this book, I was like, this is no way this is as good as it like for a debut book.
Oh.
Like, especially the way you handle the topics. Like, it's the romance, but you actually take time to let the characters actually process like the actions that they're doing and actually come to rationalize it. I'm like, oh, this is, because I was thinking like halfway through the book, like the stalker dude would be like, I forget his name. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Joshua.
Oh, it's okay. That bitch died, so it's all right.
Because I was thinking it was gonna happen like probably like earlier on in the book, and then the rest would just be like smut.
Yeah.
Like how like a lot of dark romances would do, like everything kind of just happens conveniently off the page. And then you're just only on the romance. You're just only on that, like, he's bad. Like, what everyone's like, he's bad. He does all these horrible things. And then, but you never actually see any of it. It's, like, very one-dimensional. I like how you actually kind of delve into, like, what this actually means.
Yeah.
For the characters, like, what does the darkness do to them?
Yeah.
Totally.
Oh, thank you. I mean, that's sort of exactly what I was trying to accomplish. I was definitely trying to show more than tell with this one. I don't think when it comes to like certain dark romances, I understand that like there is a part of us that can just be told this person is a hitman, and that automatic taboo makes it so that you kind of already feel a certain, you go into the novel with preconceived notions. And so I suppose whatever it is a lot of other authors are attempting to accomplish isn't necessarily that exploration, but more like, you know, just sort of the taboo nature of what it means to screw somebody who kills someone else. I was trying to like really explore those themes. So I guess that's like sort of the difference in like execution and why I wanted everything to happen on page, like for sure. I wanted everybody to feel it as much as I could make them feel it.
I appreciated that, especially like the breakdown of his rules, because that's when I was like, not only do I like my preconceived notions subverted, but I like the process of him like slowly making these like high risk like allowances for her. And then her also doing that as well in terms of her job, in terms of family. So then they're both kind of like, like falling into one another because they have to like make those sacrifices. I liked that.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. Oh, it's not I mean, I love Callum and Howie so much. Like, I don't know. They're always like real deep in there. But their story is not, I don't know it. I've heard so many people be like, there were parts where it was like so weirdly sweet and endearing. And that's what I wanted because they were in love and they were falling in love. But they were also like two people who were really like fucked up and like realizing that they were willing to completely fuck up their lives for this. Which I thought was like, I was like, girl, y'all are wild. When I was writing this, I was like, y'all wild, but here we go.
It had to be like that because when she gets in the car, hi Crystal, when she gets in the car and she's willing to go with him in the end, it had to make sense. It had to make sense for him to be willing to take her. With his sister, and like, so I loved that being plotted out, and for her to recognize that like she's got a little bit of that in her, like she was capable of just taking care of Joshua, and not just anybody, to be able to like stand in front of her abuser and do that job. So like, I appreciated all the work that it took to get up there, and for you highlighting just that issue within like our very like real system that fails women. Like, did you have to do any research on that? Like her actual job? Okay.
I did. There was also some like unfortunate like personal experiences. I don't know that I know you know, a marginalized person who hasn't been very, very failed at, you know, at some point by whether, you know, when it comes to like interpersonal relationships, abuse, assault, etc. I definitely wanted her to, I think her job was very strategic for me. It was really important. It was important that like, I wanted people to realize that her job was her caring about, it was her caring, but it was also like, there was a part of it that was her trying to prove to herself that like she was a good person. And what she thought a good person should do and who she thought a good person should be. And I thought that was important. I think that like to come to terms with the fact that like, you know, we do good things, but we don't always do good things just because they're good things. We do them for reasons that are selfish that sometimes we don't even fully understand. And so, yeah, I wanted her, I definitely wanted to drop little like hints about like, Hallie doesn't think she's perfect, but she thinks she has a keen understanding on like what a good person is, or that there are just like good people, and that she is one of those good people, and that those good people don't do things like this. And so, you know,
you get that across with like, I could have taken this, you know, $100,000 a year job, but I'm doing this. And I was like, girl, if you bring this up, we'll cry.
That's exactly it. Yeah. She's definitely, and I mean, I thought it was I really liked that scene I wrote with her and her sister, where her sister was like, everybody thinks you're like, you know, this sweet little girl, but like you're a bitch just like me. You just you know, and I was like, that's okay. Like, I love a bitch. Like, let people be bitches. I love like a mean girl character so much.
That, like, when you say that, like, I just read Kiss of the Demon by
it's Sabine and Rice's book.
It's Sabine, and like literally the beginning of the book says, the male character says, she may be a bitch, but she's my bitch.
Yeah. Oh my god.
She is like, honestly,
that's like a complete aside, but
she wants to do whatever she wants
there
without apology, and that energy is just like, ugh.
Yeah.
Because we're conditioned to believe that that's bad. Like, I hate that. I'm like, thank you. You know, that's more the endearment to it.
I agree. I'm very unconcerned, like in my personal life, with like the concept of like niceness. Especially as I'm a Southerner, so it's been drilled into me for like the concept of being polite and like just like, but and especially also as a Black woman who I constantly feel the pressure to like my way through, like smile. I should talk because we're to like smile, grin, and bear my way through it so as not to be perceived one way. But I'm also like, don't perceive me at all. I'm good. Like, I'm the older I get, the more I realize that it's okay for me to not let people fuck me over. And like, it's okay to like not constantly be nice. It's okay. Because it doesn't mean anything. People are nice to you while they are like in their heads shitting all over you. Because you've been nice to people while you've been in your head shitting all over people. So I think like, tangent, but yeah, I like a bitch a lot. A person who's sort of become disillusioned with that.
Well, I feel like there's also like this kind of, it's almost like a social like grease of like, I'm gonna pretend that I like care. So like it's almost this kind of dance of like, we do this because we should, but we're all like, often it's just kind of a time waster for everyone.
Yeah.
And it's not like you owe it to anyone.
Yeah. I mean, think about how much time you spend like thinking about pleasantries when you're sending emails that don't mean anything. Like the first line, how do I address this person? How do I end? Should I say thanks or should I say best? And what does that mean? What will they think if I say best instead of kind regard? Like, I don't know. I wish we could. I know there are like plenty of like cultures who are like much less concerned with that than like Western Americans are, but yeah.
Wait, the other day there was like, if there is such thing as a hottie with a body, there's such thing as a hottie without a body, and I
saw that too.
I would not like to be.
I do not want to be perceived. I agree. My younger sister and I, she's Gen Z, so she's like, she's cool. Have been saying that, just like, please don't perceive me, like, don't ever perceive me, because we were a little zooted talking about it's very bizarre that there are people, you look in the mirror and you see something and you perceive yourself to be one way, and then you like go to Kroger and somebody else looks at you and they see something completely different. Is that not the wildest? That's scary.
Or like hearing your own voice recorded sometimes is like, that's not how I sound.
Horrific.
You could get so much further. That I think I was thinking that when I read Still by Kennedy Ryan, and it was like she says a line about how like they were able to like pack in years worth of conversation in just a few like days because they cut through the pleasantries and had those difficult conversations while laughing at themselves. Like in Just One More, I'm like, okay, you have the scene where like he's allowing her groom him it was the most intimate and erotic thing to me, because to allow somebody else to groom you is to do away with all the image management, that representative self that you project to other people. And it was a good marker of their development in such a short time of knowing one another. You know, to like let someone else as a barber do you. I was like, okay,
that's
just cutting through all of that.
I'm very interested as an author in like exploring like intimacy and like the many ways that we have intimacy. Because my sex can lean more filth oftentimes than like sweet, you know, like the first time. I'm not saying it isn't ever, but it can, you know, lead that.
I appreciate it.
I was like,
you know,
no,
that's
thank you.
what I love it too, but that's why I'm like, so that's why I need to show those sort of relationship markers of like showing them building intimacy in ways that are not just tied up with pivotal sex scenes. If I'm not just going to I want the sex to move the relationship along, but I also want to like drive my id of just like wanting filth, which I love filth, so I am not saying filth in a derogatory way, I can assure you.
This one gets pretty filthy really quick.
Just one more is filthy.
I read that, I think it was last week. I read it super recently, and it was just like a shot of just like
I was like, how did Jodie manage to make a novella feel like a full-length novel?
Okay.
I feel like we got everything that we needed in this novella. I was like, usually novellas are just like they meet, they kiss, one steamy scene, then and then read my full-length series after this.
And the sacrifices were there, because for them to go all the way out there in Bushwick, like I lived in New York. If my friend moved to the East Side, it was like, see you in a couple of years. Like I'm not changing trains and doing that. So there was just like a lot of like, seriously, like it's like going to Queens. You know? And I was like, he knows. So all these like little like markers of them like really being into one another, and then driving it home physically,
literally driving it home.
I've had this moment. Maybe I shouldn't even be sharing this because it's live, but whatever. Like when she's afraid that she's gonna suffocate him, I was like, yes, let's talk about it. Yes,
and also, I don't care. And he's just like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah,
I know.
I will say I had a reviewer say that they hadn't really understood the mechanics of face sitting, and then they read that scene and they did, and that's one of my proudest. I'm like, I'm officially like a sex ed teacher.
I'm like, she's doing like the work here, because you see all these sexy scenes, but when you do it, you're like, oh my god, like is he gonna die? You know, I was like,
it's scary. That's exactly. I love Wit and Bick. I just wanted them to like have orgasms and smoke weed and happy.
Okay, speaking of intimacy, like that was one of the moments that like I found to be like the sweetest, and like one that I found the most memorable and delightful is that like they're just kind of like chilling. They're like, hey, like, oh, do you smoke? Like, yeah. And then they sat around and watched movies together and hung out. And I was like, this is like the most pure thing. Like, it's lovely.
If you're okay, first of all, there's not enough like recreational drug use.
Totally.
No, there isn't.
In a way that it shows that like this is a thing people do, and you know it. I was like, and you know what's wild? I don't know if my editor is still in here, but she was. But I remember discussing with her, being like, can I put this in here?
Yeah, you did.
And me being like, wait, I wrote a book with a hero who murders people, and I'm sitting here like, are people gonna scorn me if I make my main characters smoke a joint together? But then I was just like, fuck it. yeah, fuck it. Like, because it's real. It's like it's it's real life to me, and also it is so intimate to like smoke someone up and watch a movie and just be able to like chill, to trust someone enough to like be in a heightened state with them. To me, is or like in a like different like state of mind in them is. And I know like people drink and people get drunk around their partners all the time in romance novels. I don't know that it's viewed the same, but I also think that should be viewed with the same like sort of weight. Like I do think that's a level of intimacy because it's not something that I think it shows that like they're comfortable with each other. Because I do think that there are two people who, if they weren't, they would probably be like, nah, I'm not gonna. I want to be like, just in case of shit,
But you didn't mess around because it wasn't like she was like, oh, I don't do this. Like she was good at rolling her.
Yes,
I love that too. It's competent.
Yeah, it telegraphed like, yes, I do this. Not like, oh, can you teach? I don't know.
Oh yeah, oh, absolutely not. Like, Wit is definitely like a crystal girl with like, who like has like a smoking caftan. Like, she's got her like designer like rolling tray. Like, she's not new to this. She's true to this.
I also loved, I moved to New York this year and I was reading it and I was like, no one talks about streets this way unless they've like, because I feel like there's so many books that are like set in New York, but like the same way that like Regency England isn't really what Regency England was. It's like this like, people have this like publishing idea of like, oh, New York. And I was like, no, this is someone who knows what that is like. Like people don't talk about the subway like this unless they've lived here.
Well, I haven't lived, but I have been. Plenty, and I have been enough to become not disillusioned, but to not have the shiny one little part of Upper East Side view of New York, enough to know that like shit's real.
You can go to being on break and taking like being on break and being like, okay, I'm not going to take the train. I'm going to spend this money on a freaking Uber to get to this cupcake shop because I don't have a lot of time, and I hope I didn't waste my money. And like all of that, like just with like the subway, and the lengths of like transportation. When you travel for somebody in New York, that's a big deal. Like, so I just really appreciate it. Like, we're going to go to this restaurant all the way up here, BFE in Bushwick, even though the service is horrible, the food's great. Like,
they got out of their Uber pool.
Yes. I was like,
if I was on my last in New York in an Uber pool and somebody threw up, I can't say for sure that I get out.
Well, no.
Yeah, I don't know. I would just like go like
having the ride come. Exactly. You might just be like, you know what? I'm shoving my earpods up my nose, my earbuds up my nose. It's like I'm like, you know what? I'm not about to waste. This is a $6 ride. It would normally be 40 minutes on the train. Absolutely not.
Like, okay.
So yeah.
I thought the same thing. I was like, she must have lived like
not lived, but been plenty, and like I enough to know that I can never live in New York. I'll say that. I've been. Oh, well, I do. I have a big move planned for 2022.
Ooh,
that's a really big move. So
wait, okay,
because we're manifesting. I can say it's not really a secret. Like I'm kind of manifesting, so I feel like the more people I tell, the realer it becomes. I would like to move to London.
I was wondering if it was going to be overseas.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that'd be so amazing.
So yeah.
Do you know people there, or is it just like I'm gonna be here?
I do know people there. One of my best friends lives in London, but I've never been. But it's one of those. I never thought like I had kind of speaking of Black Mental Health Matters, early last year before all of this had like kind of a breakdown, like a mental breakdown. And I came out of it like trying to like heal. I came out of it and I wrote Either Way Up, which was like the first book I ever wrote where I really confronted mental health, mental illness. And then I was like, okay, I'm here, like I'm in the place that I was, you know, born and raised. Do I want to be here like forever? And if so, where do I want to go? And I was like, if I never thought I was going to actually be able to be a writer, even though it was something that I wanted when I was 13. I never thought it would actually happen. And I'm like, so that's happened. So what are the other things that we really wanted and never thought would happen? And I was like, all right, that's going to be it. Even if I don't stay forever, it's worth it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Do that. Yeah. So and you're going to be there when Either Way Up is published. That's great.
Yeah. So I have a 3-book deal. So
damn.
Tell us all about, plug your upcoming book.
Tell us about
I need more. Why don't I
say that again?
Tell us about the
for these.
Yes. Oh, yes. Okay. So the next paperback is another novella, March 8th, To Be Alone With You. It is a quarantine novella, which I know is dark for a lot of people, but
I trust you. I trust you.
I trust you.
It's about it's another Black romance, so 2 Black MCs. It's about a 41-year-old like sexy sculptor and a 31-year-old like burnt out PA, and he was like an apprentice of her mother. And she, a decade before the story happens, and she wanted it, and he was like, no, he rejected her. And 10 years later, she's avoided him like the plague, because, you know, that's like, you know, it's humiliating for a 21-year-old. Yeah. And 10 years later, she's like, she hates her job. She's burnt out. She needs a vacation, but she's broke. She doesn't have any money. And her mom's like, well, I can call my old friend. And he has this beautiful place up in Joshua Tree. And you can stay in his guest house. And she goes, and because he says yes, and she goes to stay in his guest house. And then she gets there, and then the coronavirus outbreak happens. So it's like that. So so I was like, it's a corona novel, but it isn't. I didn't want it to be like, I wanted it to be kind of fluffy too. I didn't want it to be too like it's set in reality, because I think it's a perfect setup of 2 people who are truly forced proximity. But they're like alone. Setup. They are like the only 2 characters in. It's like, you know, it's not like Malcolm and Marie, but you know how Malcolm and Marie are the only 2 characters in that movie. They are, you know, really, they're like by themselves on this in this beautiful like plot of land in the middle of the desert, while the world is
one bed. Yes.
So actually, there is no just one bed in this one, because he has a guest home. Like that's the type of, he has an indoor pool.
He's established.
Yes. Oh yes, he's very established. There is a chaise lounge.
Someone needs to call B in the book.
Okay.
Oh, they have. I promise. They when I said on Twitter, they were like, B, look. So, but yeah.
I feel like a novella is kind of a perfect place for quarantine, because it's like just enough that it feels, and also like this situation is like purely like escapist fantasy, what everyone wants.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to dwell in that headspace of like quarantine in like a long term. Like I feel like it'd be hard to write a full length book, but just like a hot.
Yes, that's exactly what I wanted. Just like hot and like short, and it's helped me to like be in it by like you know, be like, okay, this is where we are, and like and it's also this writing it helped me realize that like helped me, because very good things have come into my life during this. Like, I got a 3-book deal. Like, I realized ultimately what I wanted to do with my life and where I wanted to go in the midst of all this garbage. And I was like, it makes me happy to, obviously, while we have to like spend a lot of time thinking about like how our government failed, you know, all of us really in this, it does make me feel, and I do, you know, acknowledge that, but it does make me feel good to think that there, you know, to write something where like something good, even if it's just love, sort of does blossom out of this trash.
And it's affirming, because I've been thinking it. I'm like, there's so many people that were like planning on leaving that ex or whatever, and they're stuck in that apartment. Like, I've been going off in my own mind, so it makes me feel less, you know, weird about my own fantasies.
Yeah.
Being in quarantine with people, or like you see stories on like IG and Twitter of like couples that met during quarantine on like, the balcony across.
I'm so jealous, by the way. Some of us have been alone. I'm spending my 26th year. I'm so hot this year. I know I don't look that hot right now, but
we all saw that photo shoot.
So
we saw that in
here.
Yeah, we saw that.
We know.
Listen. And I'm just here by myself, and no one else can experience it, and it's devastating. So yeah, but yes. I'm sorry, Melissa, but I promise there will be plenty more Only One beds in future books. But also there is one in White Whiskey Bargain, by the way, if you haven't read it. It's good, if I do say so myself.
Yeah. They're all like at least like they're in that like 4.5 to 5. They're like, I can't choose. Like, I thought White Whiskey was like my 4.5 and the other two were 5, but now talking about it, I'm like, maybe like, like I'm conflicted. Like now, like I like,
Charles.
So like now
no.
I'm literally on Amazon buying a copy of White Whiskey. I was like, the second time I was like, I need to change my rating on this. I think I was wrong when
I'm just like, you know, I'm just glad people are like sort of taking a chance on my weird little stuff and like reading it. And even if like there were things in it that they weren't into, didn't find perfect, I'm like, you know, that's like, I'm always growing as a writer. That's totally chill. Like, but like, even if there are like little things that you picked out and you were like, I really did like this and this I connected with. If there was like 1-2 things someone connected with in my book, even if they were like, this is a 1-2 star read, I'm like, you know what? That's chill. I'm good with that. Like, that makes me happy. Like, if All Things Burn made you feel like even a little bit seen, made you feel like I want to blow the brains out of somebody who like really hurt me and is still walking around fine, that's good enough for me, because that's what I wanted.
I felt seen when she was willing to get her hair wet in the shower with Callum. That's when I knew she was serious. Because I was like, how did Jodie knows if she's willing to get her hair wet?
That's a lot. That's a big commitment. That's
Tiffany. I know the struggle. I know that. I was like, you bring a bucket of water near an African woman's hair.
Listen, I would truly be like, you don't have a shower cap, do you?
Right?
Like, how about you sit on the edge of the tub? Because I'm like, I don't know if I love anybody enough. I don't know if I've ever loved anybody to fuck up like a fresh twist out. You're out of your mind.
Yeah, because it was like a fresh marriage. I was like, oh, girl, she's got it.
You're out of your mind. Absolutely not. Do not perceive me.
Oh my goodness.
Ooh, I have a craft question. Just curious. So I know some people, like when they write, like I know Sarah McLean is like known to say like everything that you like about my books all comes out in the edits. Like my revisions are where the book happens. And then there's some people like Katie Robert who will post like screenshots of her like, this is what I wrote yesterday, and then that will typically appear in the book. So like, where do you fall on that spectrum? Like, do you do most of your work in revisions, or?
I do most of my work in drafting, 100%. I'm an overwriter, so I take out a lot in revisions. But I'm also a pantser. I don't plot. I can't. I start with like a plot, overall idea, and then I have to let it take me where it's going to take me. I am in awe of people who can sit down and plot out a novel and then still feel inspired to write it, because I've been telling people this. I have this gorgeous Black romance heist novel, full-length novel with a lady thief and a private detective who is like,
how can you tell us this?
Well, the thing is
I
that
need arcs of all of these books.
The thing is that I plotted it out. The thing is that I plotted it out chapter by chapter, and then I looked at it and I was like, well, the mystery is gone, and I don't want to write it. So I've always said that that's another one that, like, if I can like completely take those two characters and like completely do something different with them, I will at a certain point. But it has to like I can't. Every time I've ever tried to like
pick it up,
do that, yeah. And so what tends to happen is that I do tend to like. I'm very I wrote what I wrote type. I mean, I edit, of course, and like I said, stuff normally comes out in editing. But yeah. But I do know that so many, and I also can only write in order. I can't skip around.
I couldn't either. That's so painful. Like, I don't want to think that hard.
One of my best friends, like, mostly skips around. She is I'm in awe of it because I can't. I mean, especially as someone who doesn't plot, it's sort of unfathomable for me to. I don't know where. I mean, I'll have and I mean, granted, like, I'll be in the shower and a scene will come into my head and I'll jot down skating rink.
Yes, we all need the lady.
We need the lady thief.
Yeah.
We need the lady thief.
We definitely, Kai, I know, but I'll figure something out for her because I love her and she's.
Is it contemporary?
Her. Yes. A contemporary. I'm also in awe of historical writers because I can't do that.
Can you tell us about Either Way Up?
I can.
Yes.
I can.
Sex bingo's packed? What?
Yeah. Either Way Up is a contemporary romance novel. It's set in a small made-up town in South Carolina. It's an interracial romance with a Black heroine, a white hero. It is. I got this idea while talking to a family friend last year, an older family friend, and she spent. And speaking of being high, I was high, and she's sitting next to her, and she spent a good hour telling me about bingo. And I was like, but I was so engaged. I was like, wait, what? This is so interesting because it's a whole world that I had never really experienced much of. Like, I've been to bingo with my grandmother a couple times, but I don't think there were that many people there. Like, I think,
Yeah.
And I did go and research of the novel, so that's where, but so yes, so I got the idea for sort of this bingo setting. I really wanted to write about mental health. So the heroine has generalized anxiety disorder. The hero has post-traumatic stress disorder. They create like, they're kind of two people who are like, we can't be in love for reasons because of course we can't. And so they're like, but like, we're really hot for each other. So maybe if we only have sex when one of us wins a bingo game, that'll mean we won't ever fall in love with each other. And obviously, like, that doesn't work.
It's amazing.
Like romance logic. Like, let's just be friends with benefits, and like it'll never turn into anything.
Yeah, and what? Because it's literally like, let's do friends with benefits while also like fully being in a relationship, kind of, and like going places together, and like, blah, blah, blah. And so it's lovely, and so yeah, yes, about fantasy romance. This is an interesting question. I don't know. I don't ever want to say no because I enjoy good fantasy. The world building intimidates me. I'll say that. Yeah.
But you would do vampires.
Well, paranormal is kind of like a weird.
Paranormal. Yeah, it doesn't have to be full on fantasy. You can do like contemporary vampires and not explain that much.
That's true.
Katie Roberts did not do very much world building for her. We didn't need it.
Just like
you just go with it. Like
they suck blood and they fuck. That's all you need to know. Period.
Yeah.
Maybe. Like never say never. I think right now it's not necessarily in my plans for me. My next plans are I'm really not going to like dig too deep, but I will say contemporary Southern Gothic romance. I'll say that.
I need that. Give me actual Gothic vibes. I read one book that was pitched to me as a Gothic romance, and
what was it?
It was it's a girl, the House of like Rose Billner or something.
Oh, the Widow of Rose Hill.
Oh, the Widow of Rose House.
The Widow of Rose Hill.
I heard it was ghosty also, but my thing is like, if there are ghosts, are they banging? Like
it's more of a romance, and then like you get some Gothic, but I want it full Gothic and romance.
Yeah,
like I wanted Jane Eyre, but like
so this is Southern Gothic, which is I'm so sorry.
Charles, have you read Katrina Jackson's book, The Tenant?
Yes.
No.
I feel like that gets pretty dang close because the heroine is a ghost.
Read it.
Haunted house.
Read it.
And the hero gets the inherits.
Get Tiffany writing it down.
Yeah, me too.
Matter of fact, read every single one of Katrina Jackson's books. Read the Spies Who Loved Her series. Start with Pink Slip. Like an icon. I love Katrina, and I'm not just saying that because she's my friend. I'm saying that because I stand so hard that I made her be my friend. I stand for her book so hard on the internet that I think she had no choice but to be my friend. I love Kat. So yeah.
Her book, I read her Christmas Cookie around Christmas, and I had never read any of the other books, but I was like, this sounds cozy. And it was like the most comforting, and also like there was like some family stuff that went down in that book that was like, pretty real. But it was just like, oh, these are just three people who love each other and they're hanging out for Christmas.
Yes. I think Katrina truly has like something for kind of like every mood. She has Neighborly, which is
I don't think I've read that one.
It's a secret. First of all, the book cover is just a pair of gorgeous, thick brown thighs. On the cover. I don't want to explain it. It's like erotica. But there are like two sets of neighbors. They live in I think it's like a conjoining like townhouse. And if you share a wall, you're gonna hear things. And if you hear things enough and there's some mutual attraction, there's some things that are gonna happen.
Just, be neighborly.
Yeah, exactly. Neighborly, the title of the book. Yes. So yeah. But yeah, so this is like Southern Gothic, and I think a lot of people aren't super familiar with it, and I also know that like most people aren't reading Tennessee Williams plays, which is fine, I can assure you. And I know this is like gonna sound corny, but the closest thing I can often get to thinking about Southern Gothic is like, has anyone seen True Blood?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the opening credits to True Blood?
Yes.
You know that feeling, the sort of bizarre religious fanaticism, the like stake wrangling, the images of like this bar with people fighting, and the way that it feels like haunted and like kind of chaotic and like buzzing and a little scary. That's Southern Gothic, but with like obviously it's me, so a lot of romance, a lot of sex. So yeah, that's hopefully what's down the pipeline, but like not for a while, but yeah.
That sounds
like muted. The True Blood intro, it's like it's muted and it's Gothic, but it also has like a vibrancy with the mess. Like with the mess, and the chaos makes it vibrant, and it's what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah,
with that. I really like that.
That's exactly it. So it's not going to be apparent. Well,
Maybe magical realism.
Yeah. It's not gonna be something like I'm a vampire. That's not what I'll say. It's not gonna be that. But it's the South, so liminal spaces and all that. Like, yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. So that is exciting. Any final questions for Jodie before we sign off? Any or anyone on the live have any other questions? I know I have some. I want arcs. I haven't been promised arcs for any of this book.
Yes. Of course,
I
please.
was like, Jodie, you said you're gonna hook me up with your newest release. So I was like, I wanted to read it in time for the live show, and I was like, Jodie, do I have to stalk you on Instagram now?
So
what do I need to do?
With To Be Alone With You, this is we're like really taking it to the wire of like editing of like when it's going to be released. Because I actually work with a very small press with those. Just One More is my only like truly self-published. All Things Burned and White Whiskey are with like a small indie publisher. So that's why I couldn't get them to you like super soon, but I will give you copies. I will send you signed copies. Go to your DMs. I'll send you signed copies of every book if you want. Go to my DMs, send me your addresses on IG. When it comes time for Either Way Up arcs, I got you. Like, it's fine.
Oh my God. You are more than welcome to come back on the channel. We can talk because I'm going to be wanting to read this and like just go crazy on it.
I loved y'all. I hope you enjoy it. Like,
You hope. I was like, talking about your writing.
Yeah. Everyone who knows me knows like I'm a big audiobook person. So if I'm like willing to like pick up a book and like actually spend the time reading, I was like, and All Things Burned is like I'm usually like my novella person. Like 300 pages. I'm like, oh, Jodie, this is kind of long for me. Like I don't know if I'm going to trust you with this. And then I just sat there. I was like, chapter, okay, can't stop.
I feel bad.
And I was like, I'm loving this.
I'm like, I don't know, 2 years something into this, and every time someone's like, wow, I love your writing, I'm like, do you? I don't even know what
I like it.
It is.
I like it. Like,
I love it.
Yeah. And all your books are so different. The 3 books that you have out are so different. They're not the same whatsoever. I was like, you got like a moonshiner, you got like a hitman dark romance, you got a cute steamy like Valentine's Day novella like type of thing. I was like, where did she come up with like usually some other stuff like this thing?
I will say I study fashion, I work in fashion, and I loved the clothes in Just One More. It's when I read most of this, I remember it, but I was like, this girl, I want to be her. She's phenomenal.
Thank you. Well, that's exactly, and like this is no shade, but like so many books I read the characters' clothes, and I'm like, this would not look good. And and I, they call me rich because I be dressing like I like to dress down. And not every character is like a fashionista, but I was like, Whitney has like flair, like
she does.
She just does, and so I definitely wanted to showcase that. So yeah.
This is a good question. I had to highlight this question. Are we getting any audiobooks?
Okay. See, okay, first of all, this is my editor. She edited Just One More, by the way. Yes, bow down. I don't know. I would like to. I would absolutely love to work on that. It'll be something that I'll have to finance myself, which isn't a problem. But once I'm like a little less busy, I would love to work on getting audiobooks for All Things Burned and White Whiskey Bargain. So watch this space. Like I'll keep you posted. Definitely.
Yes.
I can be put every so I'm like, oh, these will be so good on audio. Like I just need a moment because you just made my day.
Oh,
I was like, it's just audiobooks are coming. That's all I need to know.
Yes, they will at some point. I will have some out. Yes.
Because I will recommend this to everyone. Like, oh my goodness, like, so
like,
good.
Love bombed here. Like,
yay!
maybe this Black History Month was worth it because it was so chaotic. And now,
Yes.
I will do. Oh, do you really, Diane? DM me on Instagram.
Ooh. Mom, Diane.
Oh, we're making it.
Jodie _ Slaughter on Instagram.
Yes.
We'll discuss.
But yes, so a lot of things coming up for you, Jodie. I'm super excited. Definitely go when your newest novella comes out. Definitely go read that. Definitely go read Either Way Up. I think I might have messed up the title. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's perfect. I forget that some people say either and some people say either. I think I'm like country, so I say either. You know.
Either.
Like
okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm usually the worst with like character names, titles of books,
character names.
I don't
like,
titles of books. I don't remember.
So.
Like I don't remember a plot. I don't remember characters. So like romances, I can get away with saying like the hero or the heroine. Menages are a whole. I can't describe a menage because I can't say hero 1 and hero 2.
Hero 3, hero 4.
If it's like all the same gender, then I'm like, dang, I can't describe them. I can't say
right.
Like I'm just gonna say heroine number 1 and then heroine number 2 has this going on.
Sword 2, sword 3.
Yes, sword. Oh my god.
Let's hope every single one of them cross. Yes.
Always.
Katie
always.
like just revolutionized menages for me. I was like, now like Katie writes them so well with her little Barbie dolls.
Oh my god. Her I love her images of her like, okay, so I'm bending it. Like I'm just imagining like her kids walking into her office and be like, Mom, what is Skipper doing?
I feel like considering every thing she posts, a kid would walk in and they'd be like, "What are you doing?" And she says it, and they're like, "That's weird. I need you to go get this thing from me." Just like taking it in stride.
I think Tasha L. Harrison tweeted one day that I think she said that she was like in her office like working on the mechanics of one of her sex scenes with something, and I think one of her kids walked in, and her kids are I think like grown-ish, like at least older teenagers, and she was like, "Oh, I'm working on a sex scene," and they were like, "Oh, okay, girl."
Oh my god!
I was like, that's up there for like the kids of romance authors. Yeah.
I know y'all authors have the most progressive homes because Katie Roger, I'm sure she said that she asked her husband the other day, like, if you had to undress someone in this way, how would you do it? He's like, I'll write a model out for you, dude.
Yeah.
I can't wait, honestly.
Oh, I saw that. That was on TikTok, and I think it was about like dressing a body like a dead body. Because it was for her, like she had like a cult book a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I'll draw a model, babe.
Yeah. Honestly, that's love. That's romance. That's
Their whole story is really cute. It's like,
I know. Oh, I want to be in love. I know. Gosh.
But thank you so much, Jodie, for coming on my channel. I would love to have you back anytime you want to. You want to come back, talk about, you just want to come out and hang on a live, we can do it. We can do that. Just let me know. But yes, I'll link everyone's social media, like all their information down below in the description box. So definitely go subscribe to, we have people on Instagram, so go follow them on Instagram. I was gonna say subscribe on YouTube, and people would have been like, none of them have YouTube channels. But
not
subscribe
on YouTube,
on Twitter, on Instagram, all the socials. And yes, there are more surprises to come on the channel, so stay tuned. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us, and thank you so much, Jodie, for coming on my channel.
Thank you for having me. Truly, y'all were so awesome. You asked like really like fantastic questions. I had a blast.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Dude, so much fun.